The call came at 11:43 p.m. I almost ignored it when I saw my sister Lily's name flashing across my screen. We hadn't spoken properly in months unless she needed something. The second I answered, loud music exploded through the speaker. People were laughing in the background. "Aiden," she shouted happily. "Guess what? I'm getting married tomorrow." I sat up slowly in bed. "Tomorrow?" "Yep, we decided not to wait anymore." She laughed again. "Life's short, right?" Something in her tone felt strange. Too excited. Too rehearsed. Then she said it. "Oh, and before you freak out, I kinda needed to borrow money from your account." My chest tightened. "What do you mean borrow?" Silence. Then another laugh. "Don't be dramatic. You always have savings. I used the joint emergency access mom, convinced you to add years ago." I opened my banking app instantly. The screen loaded. Then my stomach dropped. $148,000. Gone. Every cent I had saved over 7 years. The apartment fund. My business reserve. My safety net after working 18-hour days, while everyone else in the family called me obsessed. For a moment, I genuinely thought it was fraud. But then Lily kept talking, casually, like she was discussing weather. The venue needed immediate payment, and Ethan's family was pressuring us. "You'll earn it back anyway. You're the successful one." Successful one. Funny how families only remember your success when they need access to it. "You stole from me," I said quietly. "Oh my God, stop saying stole." Her voice sharpened. "It's for my wedding. You're my brother." In the background, I heard someone yell, "Did he finally stop being cheap?" More laughter. I recognized my mother's voice next. "Aiden, don't ruin this for her. It's her special day." My fingers tightened around the phone. Not one person sounded guilty. Not one. I closed my eyes for a second and suddenly remembered every family dinner where they mocked me for working weekends. Every birthday I missed because I was building my company while they called me boring. Every joke about me marrying my laptop. Now, the same people were spending my future like it belonged to them. "You should be happy for me," Lily continued. "Honestly, this is why nobody likes talking to you. You make everything about money." That almost made me laugh. Because people who never earned anything always say money doesn't matter. I stood up and walked to my apartment window. The city lights below looked calm, distant, unaffected. Meanwhile, my own family was celebrating robbing me. "Aiden," she snapped, "say something." I looked at the transaction list carefully. Venue transfer, luxury florist, jewelry payment, private beach resort, my name attached to all of it. That's when I noticed something else. Every payment was still pending, not completed, pending. My expression changed slightly. "Aiden," Lily said again, this time annoyed. "Why are you being weird?" I leaned against the glass window quietly. For years, they mistook my silence for weakness because they only understood loud people. They never understood restraint, never understood patience, and definitely never understood what happens when calm people finally stop protecting you. "You know," I said softly, "I really hope tomorrow goes exactly the way you planned." She laughed. "See, I knew you'd get over it." I smiled faintly, not because I forgave her, because she had no idea what was about to happen next. Your one click can keep these stories alive. Subscribe, because every voice deserves to be heard. I barely slept that night, not because of the money, because something inside me had finally gone quiet. Around 2 a.m., I sat at my kitchen counter with my laptop open, reading every transaction carefully. Lily hadn't transferred cash directly to herself. She'd used my linked account to authorize vendor payments through temporary holds, which meant one thing. The money hadn't officially settled yet. Most people would have panicked, called everyone screaming, threatened lawsuits. But anger makes people sloppy. Silence lets you think. At 7:12 the next morning, I called the bank's fraud department, not to create drama, just to remove unauthorized access from my account and report suspicious high-value transactions tied to my financial identity. The woman on the phone sounded calm and professional. "Sir, because these charges are still pending, they may be temporarily frozen while we investigate." Frozen. Interesting word. By noon, Lily's wedding planner was calling me nonstop. I ignored every call. Then my mother texted, "Why are payments declining?" A minute later, another message arrived. "The venue is threatening to cancel." I stared at the screen, without emotion. For years, they treated my work like a joke because they only saw results, never sacrifice. They never saw the nights I slept in my office, the anxiety attacks before investor meetings, the exhaustion behind the calm voice. To them, I was simply the rich brother. A walking emergency fund. By 2 p.m., my phone looked insane. 43 missed calls, 12 voicemails, dozens of texts. Lily finally sent one that made me pause. "You are ruining my life over money. I read it twice, then locked my phone. Because people who destroy your peace always call you cruel the moment you stop funding their comfort. An hour later, Ethan called me personally for the first time in years. Aiden, man, there's obviously been a misunderstanding. Funny how respect suddenly appears when bills stop clearing. There's no misunderstanding, I replied calmly. Long silence. Then his tone changed slightly. Look, families help each other. I glanced at the skyline outside my office window. Families also ask permission. He exhaled sharply. So, what, you're really going to embarrass Lily on her wedding day? That question revealed everything. Not guilt, not accountability, only embarrassment. Public image mattered more to them than what they'd done. I didn't embarrass her, I said quietly. She did that herself. Then I hung up. For the first time in my life, I stopped trying to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding me. And strangely, peace followed. That evening, I went back to work. Not revenge. Work. While chaos exploded inside group chats and wedding calls, I sat in a conference room, closing a deal my company had spent 8 months negotiating. No yelling. No emotional speeches. Just signatures. Progress. Growth. Forward movement. Meanwhile, my family was collapsing under pressure. The florist refused setup without confirmation. The resort threatened cancellation penalties. The jewelry company flagged the purchase for identity verification. Everything Lily built in one reckless night was starting to crack. And the terrifying part for them, I still hadn't attacked anyone. I hadn't posted online, hadn't exposed her, hadn't even raised my voice. I simply stopped protecting people from the consequences of their own decisions. Around midnight, my mother showed up outside my apartment. I opened the door, and for a second she looked shocked to see how calm I was. You need to fix this, she demanded immediately. No hello, no apology. Fix this. I stepped aside, silently letting her enter. She walked into my apartment, looking around like she was seeing it properly for the first time. The floor-to-ceiling windows, the quiet luxury, the awards near the bookshelf, all the things she used to mock me for chasing. She's been crying all day, Mom said. I poured myself a glass of water. Interesting. Her eyes narrowed. Don't act cold. She's your sister. And I was her brother yesterday, too. That shut the room down. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then, she tried a softer tone. You know how Lily is. She gets emotional. No, I replied calmly. She gets comfortable. My mother stared at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. But the truth was simpler than that. She had never met this version of me before, because this version stopped confusing love with permission. She said you'd forgive her eventually, Mom whispered. I looked at the city lights again. That, I said quietly, was her biggest mistake. Behind my calm expression, a decision had already been made. And tomorrow morning, everyone at that wedding was going to feel it. The wedding guests were already seated when Lily's planner walked onto the stage, looking pale. Whisper spread across the resort ballroom. Then, the manager stepped forward and calmly announced that multiple luxury payments had been frozen due to unauthorized financial activity. The music stopped. Lily's face lost color instantly. That was the moment she finally understood something terrifying. I had never ruined her wedding. I had simply stopped saving it. An hour later, she found me outside near the ocean. For the first time in her life, she looked small. You could have warned me, she whispered. I looked at the waves quietly. You could have asked me. Silence. No screaming. No revenge speech. Just truth. Behind us, guests were leaving while staff removed decorations one by one. Lily lowered her head. I'm sorry. I nodded once. I know. But apologies after consequences always sound different. I walked away calmly, leaving the noise behind me. Because silence becomes power the moment you stop letting people mistake kindness for weakness. Subscribe to Justice Tales Junction for more cold, emotional, powerful comeback stories. Fire where silence wins louder than revenge. 3 weeks after the canceled wedding, nobody in the family group chat talked the same way anymore. The jokes about me working too much disappeared. So did the late-night requests for small favors. Silence had replaced entitlement. One evening, my mother called asking if we could meet for dinner. Not to argue, not to defend Lily, just to talk. That had never happened before. When I arrived, she looked older somehow. Tension changes people, my grandfather used to say. I finally understood what he meant. Mom stirred her coffee quietly. Your sister moved out of Ethan's apartment. I didn't react. Turns out financial pressure reveals truths romance hides. Ethan loved expensive promises more than responsibility. And Lily finally saw it when the bills became real. She says she wants to apologize properly. Mom added carefully. I looked out the restaurant window. An apology doesn't rebuild trust overnight. Mom nodded slowly, this time instead of arguing. That surprised me more than anything, because for the first time, someone in my family was actually listening instead of defending noise. And sometimes that's the real victory, not revenge, not humiliation, just people finally realizing your silence was never weakness to begin with. People think power belongs to the loudest person in the room. It doesn't. Real power belongs to the person who stays calm after betrayal, thinks clearly during chaos, and refuses to destroy themselves just to prove a point. Aiden never screamed, never begged for respect, never chased revenge. He simply stopped protecting people from the consequences of their own choices. And that changed everything. The truth is, many people only value kindness when it disappears. They mistake patience for weakness because they've never learned the difference between silence and surrender. But quiet people are often the strongest ones in the room. While others waste energy mocking, doubting, and underestimating them, they're building discipline, stability, and self-respect in silence. That's why the comeback always feels shocking. Not because the quiet person changed overnight, but because nobody was paying attention while they were becoming powerful. Silence is not weakness. Sometimes it is preparation.